I think I'm recording. Okay, well, welcome everybody, and thanks for being here today. We'll take a minute to do some introductions right away here. I'm Josh Vanek with Montana Campus Compact, and I'm joined by Amy Ludwig from the Campus Election Engagement Project, as well as Bryce Bennett from the Montana Public Interest Research Group. We're going to talk about campus election engagement in the fall of 2018, which we all know is an important time, both in state and national politics. So thanks for everybody coming out today. Why don't we take a minute here and just do a round of introductions. Folks with audio, just want to give a shout out who you are, where you work, and what you do there.
This is Stephanie Schneider, and I'm at the University of Providence in Great Falls, Montana, and I head up a co-curricular service learning program here.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Richard DeShields, Miles Community College, and I'm the Dean of Student Engagement.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, I might just jump in here. So Peter Buchanan, Montana State University Billings, and I'm the Civic Engagement Coordinator there.
And I think that we got one more person. It looked like we have maybe 7 lines, but maybe one is audio and one is video or something. Anyhow, thank you for making some time this morning. We're going to kind of jump right into it with Amy and Bryce to talk about campus election engagement and MontPIRG, and kind of give us some tips and tools for the fall. So I think first up here is Amy.
All right. Hi guys, how are you? Thank you, Josh, for organizing this, and thank you for everyone for joining us. So how many, I guess, have you heard, since there's a small number of us, of CEEP, the Campus Election Engagement Project? Yes, no?
I'm going to say no.
No. Okay, thank you for your honesty. Okay. So quick, overview. CEEP is a national nonpartisan organization that is charged with helping increase electoral engagement on campuses. So what the heck does that mean? So what our approach is, so there's probably, at least a dozen of similar groups like ours, whether it's All In Challenge, Campus Vote Project. We all collaborate and work together. And where CEEP is unique is that we strongly believe in having people on the ground, meaning that we work with campuses individually to assess what they're doing around electoral engagement, help them come up with a plan around the elections, provide them resources, potentially some funding, and then provide support throughout the fall and beyond. So kind of what we have been doing and gearing up for this fall is we've been encouraging campuses to work with orientation, and back to school events, meaning when students, I think right now school's all back to school, that we provide voter education, voter registration, that we're working with your student government associations, we're working with different student organizations, with faculty. So we have kind of at least a dozen type avenues, resources, ideas to help increase electoral engagement on your campus. And I see Joshua, what's the most impactful approach to election engagement? And really, we strongly believe that it's different for each campus. So every campus is unique. Every campus knows where their students are gathering, knows when their students are gathering. But one thing that is consistent and that we have found is the most successful is building a team on campus. So each of you I know are probably charged with a million, job duties this fall, and maybe tacked on is, oh yeah, and get students to vote and get involved in the elections, right?
Pretty much.
Ouch. So then you have me coming to you saying, oh, you need to do these 20 things to make sure they register the vote. And you're like, are you kidding me? So one thing I encourage you, and I will send Josh some of this information, is that we have an online assessment tool. And by assessment, I mean it takes like 10 minutes. You kind of fill out, this is what our campus is doing well, this is what they're not doing well. And then from there, we go and talk about, okay, who else on campus do you think would be interested and engaged in doing this work? So, and sometimes it's people that you haven't thought of. I'll give you a good example. One state we work in is Tennessee. And so our Tennessee state director is an alum of Vanderbilt. He happened to just be there kind of finishing up some master's stuff, and he was talking to a librarian. A librarian says to him, you know, the library is a great resource and a great place where students always come, they study. Why don't we think about engaging librarians? So your first instinct, like me, is to always go to your, director of student life, your poli-sci professors. But you'd be surprised how many others on campus are interested in this type of work. You have, you start reaching out, you kind of form a team, and then you need to make sure that you get upper administration involved. And by that, I mean that you can go to your IT department and say, hey, can we get a button on our home webpage that links to voter registration or voter education? The only way that type of stuff is going to happen is if you have a dean or above saying this is a priority for our campus. Most deans and above are going to say, yes, it is a priority for our campus. We can't necessarily put funding behind it, but that's okay, because what CEEP really believes is that everyone already has the tools on campus to make this work, to increase electoral engagement. And then if you go to our website, you'll see that we have lots of resources when it comes to ideas for Constitution Day. We have candidate guides. We have how do you do voter education? How do you do voter engagement? So I'm not going to get into the specifics of each of these resources, but I think overall the approach is making sure that you connect with others on your campus, that you form a team, that you get others engaged and excited, and you get upper administration on board. So I will make sure to send Josh the assessment tool for you all to start doing that, and then we can go from there. That was my brief. Any initial questions before I turn it over to Bryce? No. Okay. Okay. All right, Bryce, if you want to jump on after me, and then we can for sure answer questions.
Great. Thanks, Amy.
Can you hear me now? All right. And actually, our website is mtperg.org, not montperg.org. So don't go to that website. It's not ours. But so I'm here to tell you a little bit about our organization and tell you about some of the services that we'd like to offer the campuses around the state. And I'll start by just giving you a little bit of background. So Montperg was founded in 1981. So we've been primarily on the University of Montana campus for the time that we've been around, but we've expanded to Montana State University. So we have full-time staff who are there throughout the year, whether it's an election season or not, at both the University of Montana and Montana State University. And our work is focused on educating and empowering the next generation of civic leaders. And we kind of do that by hands-on learning. So, there is a little bit of a class element. There's an hour-long class that our interns go through each week. But most of the stuff that they learn is by going in out in the field and actually doing registration, doing door knocking, putting together events, whatever it may be, to try to give them the hands-on skills that they're going to need to create change. So we've been working with CEEP this year to allow us to expand some of that work, and as well as the folks at Campus Compact to think a little bit more about how can we do more to empower not just the people on the campuses that we are primarily focused on, but as well as campuses around the state. So a couple of the ideas that we came up with of ways that we can support you, and I guess I'll preface by saying that this year we have a little bit more capacity across the state because we've been able to staff in a larger way because of our work that we're doing to promote the 6 mil levy, a ballot initiative that will be on the ballot this fall here in Montana, which I'm sure everybody in higher education is very much aware of. So we have additional staff that have some capacity to help with support in different areas, including Bozeman, Billings, Great Falls, Helena, and Missoula. So in those places, we have a little bit of capacity to help out with. So some of the things that we came up with of services that we could provide you all to help with your work are opportunities to have Montague volunteers come to campuses to do some short-term voter registration drives, to do pitches in front of classes where we can pitch voter registration, talk to them about civic engagement. So if you kind of let us know about when and where those opportunities are, we're happy to find people that can fill some of those gaps. We're happy as well to provide people on this list or any other list updates about important election deadlines that are coming up along the way, so that they can remind students as well as other people on campus about when is the last day that you can register to vote on campus, when is election day coming up, when are your absentee ballots going to be arriving in your mailboxes, things like that, to make sure that doing a quick announcement to let people know about some of these important dates might be the difference in making sure that somebody gets registered or is actually out to vote. On top of that, in some of our areas where we primarily Missoula and Bozeman, we'll be doing some voter education events, some candidate forums, and some educational things about ballot initiatives that will be coming out as well. So we'd be happy to invite people to those to kind of provide an additional voter education opportunity, which I know is important to everybody here. And then, on top of that, we have some voter registration drop boxes. So these are little, not very big boxes that can sit in just about any high traffic area, whether it be on campus. We also have them in high traffic places, coffee shops, businesses, restaurants around Missoula and Bozeman, where people can grab a voter registration card, fill it out, and drop it in the box, and we can pick those up as well. So it's just sort of meeting people where they are. So in both Missoula and Bozeman, we've been able to get them into some of the residence life facilities. We've been getting them into the university centers. So, especially for anybody in the outlying places that are not Missoula and Bozeman, this is an easy way to make sure that people have a voter registration opportunity where they may not have people on the ground kind of actively asking people all the time. Because, our folks in Billings and Great Falls and Helena are mostly focused on door knocking, which they do in the evenings. So they have a little capacity midday. But for the rest of the time, we'd love to provide some of those boxes as well. So those are some of the services we can provide for people. I guess I'll expand in saying that if there's things that you think that we could be helpful with that I maybe didn't mention on the list, I'd be happy to provide, or happy to chat with you about that and see if there's some opportunities where we might be able to connect in that regard. But I guess, on top of that, I would love to chat with you all about kind of institutionalizing some of this work as well, because that's a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last year, and a lot of the work that we're partnering with CEEP on this specific election is trying to ensure that it's not just a group like Montague that is able to swing in with a couple of volunteers every now and then to get people registered, but thinking about ways that we can make voter registration, voter participation, and get out the vote efforts more integrated into some of the day-to-day life on campus. So we've been making some great progress on that. And, if there's some things that we can transfer from some of the successes that we've had here at the University of Montana and Montana State University, we'd love to connect with you all on that as well. So that's sort of what we're able to chat about right now, and some of the offers that we have when it comes to what we can provide to your schools. And I would be very excited if you would take us up on any or all of that.
Great. Thanks, Bryce. Folks have questions or sort of want to follow up on any of the sort of work that Montague is doing, or the services that they currently are offering?
This is Stephanie. It's been so long ago that I've registered to vote that I can't remember what's involved or what's required of students to provide for registering to vote. So if a voter registration drop box was placed on campus, what is necessary from the students?
Sure. It's very little. I mean, we provide, essentially the full box as well as some voter registration cards to fill it with. Obviously, if you run out, we can provide you more, and you can also get more from your local county election offices. But, you know, it's a pretty simple card that we highlight to ensure that people know the specific areas that are required. So they just fill that out with, you know, the pen that's provided next to the box. They sign it, and then they drop it in the box, and then one of our volunteers goes by and picks them up every so often. So that's essentially it. I mean, if you all have some high traffic locations on your campuses that we could provide these boxes to, we would be very excited to send them to you. And, you know, our volunteers in that area would be very happy to, you know, grab them on a regular basis. And then when we get to the voter registration deadline, they can pick them up as well, so that there's no issue with people registering after the deadline. So it's pretty easy. We'll take care of just about everything. You just have to find the location and make sure it stays filled.
What is the deadline?
Oh gosh, good question. So Montana, this is sort of a two-part piece. Montana has election day registration. So people can register and vote all the way up until election day. But when you're 30 days out from the election, they have to actually go to the election headquarters to register to vote, as opposed to us being able to register them on campus. So I think it's like October 9th. I have it written down somewhere, but I am getting it off the top of my head. But it is sometime kind of early to mid October when we're not able to register people anymore. They have to take it.
Okay.
Bryce, I have a question, but I think this might be partly due to my naivety of the American higher education system and also the political aspect here. So my question is actually regarding these drop boxes. And so the concern that I had is how safe is that as a medium for taking those votes? I mean, presumably this is completely legitimate, and people consider this an official vote. Could you talk me through that? Because I feel a bit naive to that.
Sure. So I guess to clarify, these drop boxes are for voter registration cards.
Sure.
So the process of people getting registered to vote.
Yeah.
Accepting actual ballots in these boxes.
Okay.
But, you know, this has been a process that we've done for a number of years, and it's one that's been very effective. I'll tell you, we haven't really run into any issues, but we do make sure that they're always in locations where, you know, somebody that is at the desk attendant can keep an eye on it. We always make sure that there's, you know, at least it's in a public place that somebody can't, you know, just walk off with it in one way or another. So we do ensure that they're in a safe place that can always kind of have one or two eyes on it.
Okay.
Bryce, this is Richard. Could you again help remind me too, if a student were to drop a card in the box, but they live in a different county or a different part of the state, what would that mean about them dropping the card in the box here?
Yeah, so we would just have to mail it off to the appropriate county, and that's a very common thing. I mean, obviously, people at all of our universities across the state are often wanting to register for an absentee ballot at their home address in some other part of the state. So we're very used to sorting out cards from other counties and mailing them to the appropriate county.
So these would be per voter registration boxes, and you basically handle the sort of ensuring that the voter registration cards make it to the county where that person is registered.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Okay.
I mean, you know, we just need people to find the high traffic places where they're going to be seen, where they're going to be used by people, and our folks will pick them up. You know, we'll go into the box and, you know, grab them on a regular basis to make sure that they're turned in a timely manner. But then, you know, that's pretty much all that you all have to do is find a space for them, and then our volunteers will make sure that the rest is taken care of. So, you know,
Okay.
please let us know if you're interested in some of those boxes. If you need multiple boxes for multiple places around campus, we would definitely love to provide those to you. Obviously, with the start of school just around the corner, the sooner you could let us know, so the sooner we could get them to you and you could use them. You know, we'd be happy to do that. But, you know, obviously on top of that, do let us know if there's any other services that we can provide, along with the in-person voter registration pitches in front of your classes, ideally larger classes, if we can make that happen, as well as, you know, those emails of important dates or anything else along the way. So lots of options there, and I hope that you'll reach out to me if you have any questions. I would love to provide all the services for y'all.
So I have another question. We have quite a few students from out of state. So how does that work? So do they have an option to vote in Montana as a student, or it's only on the national level that they can be registered here and vote here? I get confused about how that works for students that are not originally from Montana.
Yeah, Montana has very open laws in that regard. The requirement is you have to be a resident of Montana 30 days before the upcoming election. So obviously any student that is showing up at classes next week or whenever your classes start will be a resident of Montana by our standards. I mean, obviously there's often a lot of confusion because school residency, where you get the lower price, versus state residency is very different. So you'll run into people who are confused by that. But yeah, I mean, any student who is attending a Montana institution that's living here is eligible to vote in the 2019 fall elections.
You're kind of quiet, Bryce. I don't know if something changed about your mic angle or anything like that, but I don't know if others can. I'm barely hearing you.
Is this
low, but you can hear it.
That's better. Bryce, I have a question for you. Is there a place, and maybe you guys are it, where we could send all the schools information about kind of a simple resource about voting laws in Montana?
Yeah, we'd be happy to be listed as a resource for you. I mean, often we'll send out stuff, to students on our, 2 flagship campuses closer to election day if they ever run into any voting issues. So, if any of your other schools want to use this as a resource in that regard as well, by all means, we would love to answer any questions people have, especially students.
Great.
I looked on the Secretary of State's website, and it looks like the close of regular voter registration is October 9th. And then after that, it's the in-person process at the county election headquarters, I guess.
Yep, that's right.
Awesome. I had a question in terms of kind of getting students information about candidates and issues. Do you have any sort of tips on kind of how to sort of put together a candidate forum or an issue forum, or partner with other folks? I mean, either of you, I guess, is the team approach best for this, or what are you kind of seeing in other places where kind of getting folks clear on candidates, their positions, and the issues that are going to be on the ballot is concerned?
Those are great questions. So I know CEEP is in the process of working on these candidate guides. And if you check out our website, you can see past candidate guides. And we really pride ourselves in doing our research and being as nonpartisan as possible when it comes to candidate guides. So look for that from us. In terms of kind of candidate forums or information, we have found it can often be tough for students to bring candidates on campus. Not that candidates don't want to come to campus, it's more the administration that starts to feel nervous, and they have to make sure everything is PC, both candidates have the same amount of time, I mean, you name it, right? So oftentimes, and I'm sure this isn't anything new, but we've done, we really encourage these debate watch parties, or, in the residence halls or in the unions. Schools are able to turn on all the TVs, and, sometimes they provide kind of a sheet that talks about what questions are most relevant for students, and if the candidates answer them. And then after the debate watch party, or if the candidates are speaking on television, we really encourage kind of a debrief after that, a reflection. So kind of and we have examples of this, questions that an administrator or even students could ask that would encourage more thoughtful discussion around it. Those would be some of my suggestions. Bryce, I don't know if you want to add on.
Yeah, so we've done a candidate forum roughly every fall, whether it be for the municipal candidates locally in that area, or for mostly local candidates during the federal election year. Sometimes we do get some of the larger candidates that attend, but I think the most success that we have is when we build a coalition of a number of groups, ideally across a wide spectrum of partisan beliefs and different activities. It provides a lot more credibility to your campaign, and it allows for more and it makes it more likely the candidates are going to feel like it's important thing to attend. So if it's just a Montford thing, it's not going to be as attended as if we bring on college Democrats, college Republicans, and then if you bring on the Montana Women Vote and other advocacy groups that kind of fill in that nonpartisan blend, I think it makes it more and more appealing. I guess the other thing to mention is that the most luck that we've had is when we schedule these very early in the semester, because these campaigns, especially the larger ones, have things planned out almost entirely through the election. So the sooner you can ask them for a specific amount of time, the more likely they're going to not have something already scheduled for it.
Well, and that goes true. So that goes true for all planning, right? So the sooner that we're able to start getting, boxes in the right place, asking residence hall, asking, administrators and offices to help us out, the better. Sorry, I cut off someone.
No problem. This is Stephanie. How about the ballot issues? So we've talked about candidates and how we can inform students or educate them about candidates' stances on different areas, but what about ballot issues? Any education opportunities there?
So there, I think for all of the different ballot issues that are on the ballot this fall, except for maybe LR 129, there are like official groups that are recognized on both sides that are advocating for these different causes. So, I mean, it may not be the candidate themselves, but the campaign, probably does have somebody that could, stand at a table, could answer questions. I've seen forums entirely based on the different ballot issues that are going to be on the ballot. So, if you go to the different websites for the different campaigns, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to send somebody that could be an advocate for their specific cause.
I'd be more interested not so much in like an on-campus visit, but an informational sheet of some sort. So it sounds like you have a candidate guide that CEAP pulls together. So I just didn't know if either of your agencies pull together a guide for like ballot issues that kind of captures that in a succinct way.
I'll just say really quickly, I'm sure that CEAP probably has some cool resources out there, but every voter in Montana is mailed what's called the voter information packet or pamphlet, I can't remember what it's called, from the Secretary of State's office during each election. And it has, it doesn't have anything about the candidates in there, but for every ballot initiative, it has the full ballot text, and then it has arguments for and against and counter arguments to each of those arguments from different committees out there. So there's a lot of information and a good dialogue about the nature of the ballot initiatives and arguments for and against it. So certainly everybody will be mailed those, but certainly on top of at your local county elections office, I think you can get copies of those as well that you could distribute to students. So it's a really great resource and a really great thing that the state does.
Amy, one of the first things that you talked about was the idea of adding a button or a link on our websites. Is there like a common link or a common button that we could be referred to, or are you simply indicating that we could create our own, or is there something that's already prefabricated that would be easy for us just to link to?
Sure, I think both. So Rock the Vote has a really good kind of link that talks about information that you can link them to for Montana. I'm more than happy to share some other kind of link buttons that other states and schools have done. In general, the most effective ones, besides Rock the Vote, is if you have a link that says either to the office, so probably your office that's providing information about voter registration and voter education, or to the Secretary of State's state office. So kind of there's a variety of what some schools have done. So I can make sure to share that with Josh.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
Super. Other questions for Bryce or Amy?
I mean, not so much of a question, but I just wanted to kind of summarize that if there was a way to get some of the printed material and maybe some of the electronic material in some sort of resource pack, that would be superb, but maybe that's asking a bit too much, but that would be my request. Yeah,
so I believe we signed especially those who are up on the call here, up for the Campus Election Engagement Project's Vote Rider stuff, which is a banner that says "Your Vote Matters" and some posters about Montana election law.
Correct.
So those will be coming hard copy form. And Amy, anything you can share with me sort of electronically?
Yes, well, I can definitely share information electronically. And just to echo what you said, Josh, so we have these big banners that, if students do tabling that you can put on the table, there's posters, and then Vote Riders specifically is providing these wallet cards that talk about state information in Montana that you can hand out to students.
Superb.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I know you both are busy, so thanks for making time for us today. These guys are very accessible and I think happy to answer questions as we are at the Compact office. I think we're clear to say where the expertise sort of resides in this case, which is not necessarily with us, but happy to refer and share what we do know about this. And thank you all for making some time this morning.
Thank you so much.
All righty, take care.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.